Welcome to Good News Books, everyone. I am your host, Sara Livingston, and today on the show we have Tommy McGregor. He is the author, speaker, and founder of The Transmission, a ministry devoted to guiding high school seniors to a healthy spiritual transition to college. He is the author of Lost in Transition, Becoming Spiritually Prepared for College, as well as numerous published articles and ebooks. Tommy has spent over 2 decades working with high school and college students in church and parachurch ministry, and is passionate about helping others develop a sense for who God has created them to be. Welcome to the show, Tommy.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Today, I would like to talk about your book, Lost in Transition. How did you come to write it?
Well, I guess the beginning of that story goes back when I was making the transition from high school to college. I grew up in a typical Christian family. I would even call it ideal. Very active in church, strong parents, great environment. But yet, even though I was a leader in school and church and in high school, when I went off to college, I lost sight of who I was and had no plan or vision about who I could be, and really stumbled through the first few years of my years in college when I was on my own, making more of my own decisions. And so eventually, around my junior year, I started to get back on my feet and renewed my ongoing walk in maturity in my relationship with Jesus, as well as a calling to ministry that I had felt in high school. And so after I graduated from college, I went straight into seminary and became a youth pastor at a church, and remember looking at my first group of high school seniors and thinking, they're about to go through what was really the hardest struggle of my life at that point. And so I just spent some time with them separately, and we started talking about their transition. And the next year I did the same thing with the next group, and then years and years of youth ministry have always just focused a little more on the high school seniors as they prepare to leave the environment that they grew up in and go out on their own and have to make that transition, which is really difficult. And so it's always just had a special place in my heart in ministry. And so around 2005, 2006, started to put some of the things that I had been teaching and learning about that transition into that book, Lost in Transition. First edition was published in 2007. So it's a journey of many years of my own development and growth, and then trying to make it so that other students don't make some of those same mistakes that I made.
Okay, that's wonderful. And what is the book about?
The book is, if I could summarize it in one phrase, it would be, what is college going to look like? And then how do you continue growing in your faith in that new setting? And so it begins by this look at college life and what are the differences between life in high school as a teenager and life in college as a college student, and then turns a corner and starts to define this idea of having ownership over your faith, which is really the key for anybody who is ready to take a faith that they grew up in and make it their own, and where they use that faith to see the world the way we were supposed to see it and make right decisions and those type of things. And then how do you have that faith in Christ as a college student and still have a great experience in college? So that's really the three main focuses of the book.
So this book is geared towards high school students entering college.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah, it would be ideal for a high school senior that is about to graduate or just graduated from high school, moving into an incoming college freshman.
okay, so this would make a great graduation gift,
Absolutely.
is what I'm.
The summertime is a great time for a student to read the book, and so yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Why do you think the transition from high school to college is so difficult for Christian teenagers?
There are a lot of reasons why you could make that argument, and first of all, it is extremely difficult statistically. Depending on where you look for statistics, somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of
Wow.
Christians graduate from high school and don't continue to pursue growth and maturity in their faith as they start college. And so I think one of the biggest issues that I see, and this is really what happened to me, is a high school senior, a high school student, a Christian high school student has up to 4 major spiritual influences in their life that has helped them and discipled them and guided them as they've grown and matured in their faith. And those, you can guess what those are: their family, friends, church, and mentors. And mentor might be a youth pastor or a teacher or coach or something. And so most, if not all, Christian high school students have up to those 4. Maybe they have 2 or 3 of those. Hopefully they may have all 4 of those. And so that has developed and built this spiritual infrastructure in their life. And then what happens is they graduate, and for most of them at least, they go away. They leave home. They go possibly out of town. And they leave all those 4 influences behind.
Okay.
And so we have all of these expectations for them to continue growing and to find a new church and to find new friends and to continue doing as well as they've been doing. But yet where that expectation exists without those 4 influences. And so these are students that have never had to find, most of them at least, had never had to find a new church. They've never had to start over with their base of friends. They've usually a youth pastor, you go to a church and the youth pastor is there, and that relationship just develops, and a student typically does not have to pursue that relationship. And so all of these are new things that a student has never had to do before. And they're doing it along with hundreds of other things that are brand new, academically, socially, emotionally, relationally, and all of those things. And so it's just a lot of it's a lot of new things happening at once, starting with the core of who they are and their faith. And so they struggle through that, and they lose sight of who they are and whose they are and what God wants them to do in their life, just like I did. And it just, and so it creates this whole sense of struggle that most teenagers experience.
And so I think that this is the main cause of why those that enter college kind of fall away from the faith a little bit. That's why I feel like this book is very imperative for parents and for teenagers and for those who are transitioning to college. I feel like this could be the answer to why those things have been happening, to help avoid those things if they have the right tools. Do you agree, Tommy?
I do. I agree that's a big issue. Another issue would be students teenagers that really have a borrowed faith from their parents.
Okay.
They went to church because they were made to go to church, and they kind of go through the motions and live the life, but just the relationship with Jesus is either non-existent or very immature. And so when they are presented with all these new opportunities when they're on their own,
Yeah.
then they begin to make poor choices because they've never had those opportunities before because of a bubble or whatever you want to call it that they may have grown up in. And so there are a lot of those. There are a lot of reasons why this transition is difficult, but I think everyone would agree that addressing those issues and trying to pinpoint how a student does well and how a student can overcome those things and be prepared for college is important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How have you used the book to help prepare students for transition to college?
Lost in Transition.
Yes.
It's written for either an individual or a small group to go through, and so it has questions at the end of each chapter. I also on the Transmission website have a teaching DVD that will take a group through 5 sessions that take them through the book, and so.
Okay.
The book is really designed to be either a curriculum or a personal guide for a student who is about to face these challenges.
Would you recommend it to, say, a junior or a sophomore in high school?
I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing, especially for a junior.
Okay.
One thing that you have to be careful for, and I've spoken to groups where there have been sophomores or juniors in the room, and the tendency is for them to say, "Well, this is not for me yet.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not at this point yet, so I'm going to just turn it off and not think about it." And so that would be the fear. But if a student is in a place where he or she is serious about making this transition in a healthy way and they're ready to kind of get a jump start on things, I think for sure it would be a good thing.
Yeah, and that brings us to the next book, The Freedom Permit, which I think as a parent, because I read through it, loved it. Very well written. I love your metaphors, the way that you describe things. You have a true gift, and I really enjoyed it. The Freedom Permit, I was reading through it, and what I wanted to say was, how does this book help parents equip their high school seniors?
Yeah, the Freedom Permit is specifically for a parent of a high school senior,
Okay.
and basically is a guide for them to spend this last year of high school discipling their child and preparing their student for these challenges that I've mentioned. And so if a student can get the transmission, or I should say could get the Lost in Transition, say at church, for instance, and some things that my organization does online personally, and then a parent can do what they can do through the curriculum of the Freedom Permit, then you've got three angles of guiding and preparing this student for the challenges of college. And so the Freedom Permit is the parent guide.
Yeah, and moms and dads who are watching, grandparents, pick this book up. It's fantastic. It's just wonderful. And there's 4 principles to it. I have them here. Spiritual development, life management, social behavior, and goal settings. And can you take us through a few of these?
I can. First of all, let me tell you where the title Freedom Permit comes from. When a high school student, when a teenager gets their first bit of freedom, it's when they turn 16 and they get their driver's license. But the entire year before that, they have their driving permit period. where they get a permit and they can sit behind the wheel and they can drive, but they don't have complete freedom to do that. It's a training season, and so they learn how to handle the freedoms of driving. And the best part is mom and dad are required by law to sit in the passenger seat. And so we take that concept and we apply it to the senior year. Now that same student is a few months from facing the next big batch of freedom, and that is graduating from high school. And so let's take this senior year and issue another permit. This time it's a freedom permit. And so it's preparing to handle all of the aspects of life that go in being on your own. And again, hopefully mom and dad are sitting in the passenger seat. And so that's the freedom permit. And like you said, it has those 4 parts: spiritual development, life management, social behaviors, and goal setting. And so the most important one is, of course, spiritual development. And this one asks the question, how do you teach your child to begin feeding themselves spiritually as they go off to college? And so they've lived under this nurturing environment of a home church and a home, hopefully a Christian family, and they've been brought up in that, but now it's time for them to go and be young adults. And so how are they going to transition their faith growth and maturity on their own? And so there's a verse in 1 Corinthians 13:11 that says, when I was a child, I talked like a child, and I thought like a child, and I reasoned like a child, but when I became a man, I put away those childhood ways. And so that's the idea of the spiritual development. And so in the book, there's 3 parts for each of these 4 components. There's the conversations that you can have, and there's the study that you can do, either something that they can read or something that you guys read together, and then there's the action, the just doing exercises or doing things together that would practice that theme. And so in the spiritual development, there are a lot of great questions. I believe there's 10 questions in the book that a parent can have a good conversation about faith. Everything from what has God been teaching you to how are you going to find a new church or connect to Christian friends in college. Life management is a fun one because it says how are you going to prepare your child to manage the aspects of their life that have previously been managed or at least co-managed by an adult or specifically a parent. And so this is everything from time management to money management to just practical life skills. And so if a parent is still waking up their high school senior and dragging them out of bed to get them ready for school, then there's going to be a problem next year if they're on their own in a dorm room and with no one there to wake them up. Or how are they going to manage their time so they can study or get to class on time? How are they going to manage money so that they don't spend it all the first weekend and go the rest of the month without it? And then practical life skills. When I talk to students, I ask them what they're most afraid of about going to college, and the boys usually say that they're worried that they're not going to be able to eat because they don't know how to make anything, or they don't know how to wash their own clothes, or do just regular practical things. And so that's the life management. Social behaviors is a set of conversations that might be a little difficult for some families, but are very important. And just conversations about the parents' expectations regarding social issues like drugs and alcohol and sex and dating and then social media responsibilities. And so there's a lot there in the book on that. And then goal setting focusing on the bigger picture of why they're in college and what their vision is for themselves during that process. So that could be what they're going to major in and study, as well as activities and clubs and that type of thing that they may get involved in to help develop themselves and some of the gifts that they have.
I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but I read in the book, there was a part where you said that every parent, regardless of who they are and how much they have poured into their children, they always feel like they could have done more. And I believe this, and that rings true to me. And I like how you use the metaphor of, it's not like your child, when you plug a phone into the wall and the battery's fully charged and mission complete, right?
Yeah.
That's
There's no green light that comes on once they're fully prepared for college.
Right.
You just have to do your best and then continue to plug along at it until you feel like they've gotten it.
I want to talk about your ministry here. How does your organization, the Transmission, partner with parents, schools, and churches to prepare students for challenges in life after high school?
Yeah, the Transmission was founded in 2010 after I began this process of writing Lost in Transition and just spending more time dealing with the transition from high school to college. And so this is an organization that desires to partner, like you said, with parents and churches and schools to prepare these students to have ownership over their faith, to know what the challenges of college are going to be like, and to feel equipped and prepared for those challenges. And so I do that in a lot of ways. The books that you've mentioned and other resources that are available there on the website.
Yeah, please share
two
that.
blogs on the website, one for parents and one for youth ministry leaders, as well as I speak a lot, 30, 45 times a year or so. And
Wonderful.
And so, and then there's some online opportunities that kind of make up what the Transmission is. And
can you share with the viewers that website?
yeah, it's www.the transmission, transmission.org, and it's you can see the blogs there. If you're a parent of a high school senior or coming up, maybe your child's a junior or sophomore, you can click on the parent tab, and if you're a youth pastor, go to the ministry leader tab.
Okay.
And kind of get started from there. I mentioned this. One of the coolest things that is there on the website is something called Transition University, and it is a 12-month membership site for high school seniors. Now it's free to be a part of, but it is a membership site, so they do have to sign up. It goes through what I call a student's transition year, which is basically the calendar year of their graduation, January to December, but that incorporates their last semester of high school and their first semester of college. And so Transition University is a 12-month, highly in-depth focus college prep opportunity. And so I had students signing up, class of 2016 from all over the country, signing up throughout the fall, and they can continue to sign up through the month of January. And as a matter of fact, there's an introduction component on there right now, and the first session begins this next week, and we'll be dealing with the 4 major transitions that a college freshman faces their first year in college. And so it's a wealth of information over a 12-month period.
Okay. What personally has been your favorite part of this ministry, Tommy?
You know, I love speaking to students, and I get to do that often. And I love to look at a high school senior and see the excitement that they're a senior,
Yeah.
and also see the fear that they're a senior.
Oh, yeah, I
And
remember.
I always begin our time asking them, what are you excited about? And they'll list all kinds of things. And then I'll say, what are you afraid of? And so many times the answer is the same. I'm excited about having freedom and meeting new friends. I'm afraid, or I'm nervous about having new freedoms and new friends.
Yeah.
And so just getting to experience that with them. I also really enjoy Transition University because it's more personal for me. I get to interact with these students, and they get to interact with each other.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll have currently there students from, I don't know, 10 or 15 states that are involved, and signups are still coming in, but they get to connect with each other. And so students have met other students that are going to the same schools through the forum, the
Wonderful.
online forum. They In the fall, I'll do a series of website meetings where we'll have up to 10 people online at one time, just talking about the things that they're dealing with. And so that's always a fun time to really interact, either through a live event or through online opportunities.
Can you share with us a little bit of the feedback that you've been getting from parents and students?
Sure. Well, you know, I get a variety of feedback. Usually it comes from a parent or a student after they've gone through the transition.
Okay.
And so, you know, I'll get an email, or I'll meet up with somebody that kind of came through the various opportunities of the transmission, and they'll either say one of two things. They'll either say, you're dead on right about it, and thank you for preparing me, or they'll say, I wish I'd listened more, because what you described, say, in Lost in Transition was what I experienced. I just didn't believe it at the time of reading it as a senior. And so you kind of get that. And so most of my feedback kind of comes after the experience, after a student has finally made that connection, depending on how long that took.
That's wonderful. If someone wanted to pick up your book, how would they do that? Where is it available, Tommy?
You know, I'd say probably Amazon is probably the best place, because you can get it right there. I do have them available on the at thetransmission.org, on the store there, as well as Amazon, or you know, anywhere that you can purchase a book, pick it up there.
Okay. Well, it has been wonderful to have you on the show, and I just ask for blessings on your life, and I pray that your books are a great help to many people, and I just have really enjoyed this interview. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. And everyone, remember to keep sharing the good news.